afternoon, everyone. I hereby open the Board of Zoning, open for business on the 28th of June, 2022. Which property are we gonna speak on first?
10th Street, the applicant is Mr. Thomas Payne.
And letters were sent to adjoining property owners for this request as well.
I'll read very quickly for the record, the applicant is Thomas Payne. He requests a variance to section 4-9.3 height regs of the Blackstone zoning ordinance. The request, if granted, would permit a variance to the height of an accessory building. The variance request specifically applies to property known as Nottaway County Tax Map Number 5836-336. This property is located at 710th Street and is currently zoned R1 residential. And we bring before you an unfortunate situation where there's a accessory building that has been partially constructed, and its height, as it currently stands as an accessory building, is too tall. Is too tall.
So this is 35 feet, what is the height of the accessory?
It says, if you read in code section 4-9.3, and I think the code section is included in your packet, for an accessory structure, okay? So what we have here is a half-built building. Thomas did everything right. We came to the town, got a zoning permit. Do you mind if I just let this down for a minute? Thomas came and got a zoning permit, came and got a building permit. It strictly is a matter that the accessory building is taller than the first story of the building, or the main structure of the building. I think Thomas, when he came to me and when I first brought it to his attention, he said, well, I told you it was gonna be 12 feet and I made it 13 feet, which would still have been fine, because it would have been less than the peak of the existing house. But I think at some point there was a miscommunication, because that thing is more than 12 or 13 feet now with the trusses. And I think Thomas's intention is to put his camper under there. And I've met with Thomas on site, and there's a couple solutions to it. It can be up to 35 feet if it's attached to his house, and Thomas can easily do that with a deck or something like that. So the height can be remedied by expanding his deck and making it a part of the main structure, okay? But then he's too close to the Harrop's property line, okay? Because the side setback on a main structure is 15%, 200 feet across the front of your place? 200 feet, so he'd need to be 30 feet off the side setback, and we measured it, and I think it was only like 18 feet. So we can handle it one of two ways, but the height can be remedied by just making it a part of the main structure.
So by making it a part of the main structure,
He would have to have a 30-foot side setback, and he's only about 18 feet off the side property line. And it can be handled that way. A variance can just as easily be granted on that form. And Thomas and I talked, and I said, well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because you're going to have a variance for one or the other. But the remedy for the height of the building can be easily done by just saying it's part of the main structure, which is 35 feet. It's no longer an accessory structure, it'd be part of the main building, okay?
So you use the term accessory structure instead of a garage or?
Accessory structure technically is a garage, but what makes it an accessory structure is the separation from the main permitted use, whether it's a house or something else. So usually it's a shed in the back or a garage in the back. This one is just closer to the house than what you may be thinking of with the shed out behind it. It's adjacent to and next to the house.
so it's 20 feet is for the accessory, what is it? What is it?
What is the height now? If it's-
About 24 feet?
Probably, something like that, yeah.
24 feet?
So it's like 4 feet off.
No, I don't think the 20 is the issue,
20
because you
is
can
the-
go up to 35 feet. You can
But
go
it
up to
has to be
35 as a part of a
attached.
primary structure.
Right, but it's an accessory thing.
But it's not supposed to be taller than the house.
It can't be taller than the house.
Right.
That's the big key. It's not supposed to be more than a story or taller than the house that it's,
So he did not do his homework first.
So it is taller than the house.
I didn't tell him.
Is that right?
When I gave him the
It
permit,
is.
I'll be the first to tell you. Did he specifically ask me how tall it can be? No. Did I tell him? No, I should have. I didn't tell him, I just,
Cause I went by
We
there
thought
and
12 feet
looked
was
at
the
it,
number in
it's
the
taller
phone.
than the house.
that should have fit, but 12 feet was
I
to the
went by
bottom of
there
the truck.
and looked, took pictures.
It's also going to be just a carport, is it not?
Correct.
That's what the zoning application has.
Yes. Yes.
as a
It's not
carport.
gonna be a garage, it's just a carport.
So the sides will be open?
Yes,
We'll be able to see anything you've put underneath there.
yeah, it's just a roof,
It's just a roof.
just keep rain and sun.
You can park a camper in there or something. Thus the need for it to be tall. If you ever drive by Old Flaws, there's like a mobile home camper out there. That's Thomas's camper. And it's an unfortunate situation. I wish I had said, Thomas, you got to read these things and do all these kind of things, but I didn't. And we just thought it was going to be shorter. The 12 feet would have worked, and that didn't apparently work. So I don't know if it's a comedy of errors or just the perfect storm of errors, but Thomas acted in good faith. He came and asked for a zoning permit. He came and got a building permit. His definition of 12 feet, mine were clearly not the same definition of.
I mean, did you build it yourself, or did you have contractors?
I got a contract on it.
Well, you signed a statement of validity of information that I declare that I have familiarized myself with the rules and regulations pertaining to preparing and filing this application. And you signed that you had read all this.
But the conflict is not the application. The conflict was at the zoning permit application time, when he got his building permit. And this is an attempt to remedy it. And I think Thomas has probably familiarized himself with the rules now.
Yeah,
So this application for rezoning is not what I'm reading?
It's a variance. We're actually doing what is considered a zoning variance. But the building's already been constructed, or at least the shell of the building has been constructed.
Oh, yes, I've
Under-
been by it many times.
Under good faith, Thomas came to me, got a zoning permit, and he went and got a building permit. And the town's ordinance say that accessory building, as it stands, is not supposed to be taller than his house. And
So where would he have gotten this information from?
I would hope he would get it from me, but I didn't, I thought it was gonna be 12 feet, and it never crossed my mind it was gonna be 24 feet. I just did not have that expectation. I thought it was gonna be something less. And,
So did he start it out with the intentions of 12 feet and ended up at 17?
Well, I don't know what his intentions were, but that's my understanding of what it was gonna be but that was to the beam, and then the trusses are what creates the
took it up.
non-conformity. Mistake. The mistake is mine. I do this for a living. I'm a professional at it. I don't wanna call him a neophyte, but Thomas doesn't do this every day, and I didn't put enough detail into it apparently. I don't think Thomas would have built it. Knowing Thomas since he was the ring bearer in my wedding, I would probably have thought that Thomas wouldn't have tried to skirt the rules. If he thought the rules limited him to 12 feet, I think he would have kept it at 12 feet or not built it. And so I do think Thomas has acted in good faith, and there just needs to be a way to rectify it, either side setback and or a height variance, one or the other. But the height of the building can be remedied with making it an attached, and Thomas and I talked about expanding the deck and some of the other things on the side of the house to try to make it tie in, but then he's about 12 feet too close to the Sharon's property line. Not a good situation, and I apologize for it, and I take full responsibility, but nonetheless, the rules say can't be taller than the house, so in order to fix it, there has to be a variance of some sort.
But in the past, what I have noticed, a family would take a leap and do a project, and then down the road, here comes another family with the same or similar, and there we go right back to that can of worms that we try to stay away from. So it's a bad situation because I myself might be in that same situation because I have an RV also.
Pardon?
I have an RV also, and I might have to
Make it taller.
be faced with the same situation.
It would be preferable if we could have done this before he built it,
Right.
but unfortunately, that's not the situation, and the situation is what it is now.
So the construction that you've done, I have not been by there, but the construction you have done, is that as tall as it's gonna be, or is there more to go
all
to
it
it?
needs is metal put on it, it's done.
Okay.
On the roof and the whatever siding but apparently you're not gonna have the side done, it'll just be the roof, really.
So y'all have all looked at it? Y'all have seen it? Okay.
I have, letters have been sent out to the adjoining property owners.
Yeah, okay.
If you'd like to open the public hearing, I think there are some folks that may wanna speak.
Okay. We hereby now open it for the public hearing. Would you like to say?
Members of the Zoning Appeals Board, thank you for allowing me to speak to the current situation I find myself. My name is Thomas Payne, and I live at 700 10th Street. I've lived in Nottaway County all my life, and I'm raised my son in the town of Blackstone. I'm a small business owner and work hard to set a good example for my son. I've wanted to build a structure to cover my personal and work trucks for some time, and finally saved enough money to begin. I came to the town office for a building permit and showed plans for the structure. Mr. Norbeck informed me of the setbacks I needed to meet and wrote the permit. I was not provided any documentation of zoning restrictions when issued the permit. When planning for construction, my contractor suggested we use the full height of the 8x8s to allow me to park my RV at the residence instead of at my shop, so I did go up 1 foot more than originally planned. With the recent incident of one of my trucks being stolen from my shop and other suspicious activity, I truly believe it is safer in my yard. It was not until the trusses were set in place and the roof was being installed that I was notified of a problem. Please believe me when I say that if I had known there was a height restriction, I would have never begun this build, since all of my personal and work vehicles are taller than the average vehicle. And I know now in hindsight I should have asked for any code requirements or restrictions in writing, but I did not. They were not offered or provided to me at the time. I assumed that all restrictions would be offered upon the planning stage. I've also already invested over $12,000 in this building, and due to the delay in completion, some of my lumber has been ruined. The truss frame and materials is untreated and has been used to brace my structure to the ground while exposed to the elements, so I'm already going to have to replace some of the lumber. If I had a 2-story house, a taller roof ridge line, or shorter vehicles, I would not be in this position. I do not have any of these, but what I do have is a beautiful 1-story with a great history behind it, placed in the best neighborhood in Blackstone with the best immediate neighbors anyone could dream of. With this being said, I request that you show me grace and permit the building to be completed. Thank you.
Do we have any more comments? Anybody?
Members of the Zoning Appeals Board, my name is Sharon Harrop. Joyce Daniel and I live at 620 10th Street, which is right beside Thomas. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. We're here tonight to request that you allow Thomas to finish his shed. We're the neighbors closest to him, and the height of his building does not bother us at all. In all honesty, if you've ridden down 10th Street, you notice his shed sort of balances out the house on the other side of us, which also has an extremely high roof line. We live in the town of Blackstone by choice. We love the way neighbors support neighbors and the way town employees and elected officials support citizens when needed. Joyce and I have lived next to Thomas for 3 years. He is a wonderful neighbor and always in a good mood. We are blessed by him and his son. Thomas has admitted that he made a mistake by not asking for any building restrictions. We believe they should have been provided to him when he applied for his building permit. We acknowledge he should have done his due diligence. But we all make mistakes, and this board is in place to hopefully determine allowances that can be made. We hope you'll agree that his mistake should not cost him $12,000. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Sharon, may I just ask, does it bother you at all of what items might be stored under this rooftop?
No, Thomas actually approached Joyce and I before he even started the project. And he's got 2 work trucks. As many of you know, he's a diesel mechanic, so his trucks are taller than a normal vehicle. They stay parked in his yard, and then, like he said, with the recent stealing of one of his work trucks from the shop, he really needs to bring the mobile home or the travel trailer there. It does not bother us at all. If you've ridden by our property, we've got a privacy fence that engulfs our backyard. So we can see probably about a foot above our privacy fence and then the trusses that are set. But we absolutely have no problems with this whatsoever. So our ask would be that you just allow him to finish his shed at the height it currently is. I think he's learned a valuable lesson. And hopefully, I'll just speak from personal experience. When I came in and got a building permit for the pool that we have, Jennifer actually stapled to the documents she gave us the restrictions and what we had to do and when we had to do it. So I think that all of us can learn from this situation, that regardless of who's writing the building permit, maybe it would be a good idea to attach any of the code requirements. And I'm not trying to diss Philip because he's very easy to get along with. But I'm like Philip, I know Thomas well enough to know that if he'd have known, he would have built it according to code. But this young man works hard, doesn't bother us a snip. So please just let him finish his building so we can put this unfortunate error behind us. Okay. Any other questions?
Anybody from the,
Well, the only question I have is, and it's not in reference to that, but just how will he remedy? Will he, Thomas, will you build the deck to attach it to your home, or what's the plan?
If the variance says advertised approved, he doesn't have
He doesn't have
Right.
to,
Does not have to.
okay.
And
Because if he were to,
Mhm.
he would be within his rights to finish his building,
Right.
but he would just be too close to your property line.
we'd be right in here again, asking for a variance on the clearance between our property line and his shed.
So we picked one or the other, and the
Yeah.
most obvious issue was it was too tall, so that's what we
Okay.
advertised.
Okay.
And that's the request, just let the young man put the tent on his building.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
TC, do you wanna say anything?
Let my daddy finish his building.
So I hereby close the public hearing. Open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion that we let him finish the building as is.
A second.
Been a motion been made, probably second. Any question?
Only question I would have is moving forward, if somebody's gonna build something, that they would receive the documents and codes and all that they need. So moving forward, for the record, that would become the standard regardless of who the person is.
I agree with that.
Okay. So motion been made, probably second. So we hereby pass that motion.
Do you wanna say all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ma'ams and gentlemen, thank you. Bye, TC.
We're going swimming now, y'all wanna come?
I love it when I get TC hugs. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Come on, bud.
It warms the heart.
Yeah.
It warms the heart.
I'm surprised there weren't other people that I was told were gonna show up, that didn't show up.
Oh.
Thomas for a long time.
Had,
Thomas since
Have
he
you?
was a kid at Kinston. Yeah.
He didn't,
had you heard from anybody else?
mm-mm. I've had people call and ask me for your contact information to maybe contact members of the BZA, but that's the only calls I've had. Or one of them was an email and one of them was a text message.
And I
But-
did send the adjoining property on our letters.
Oh, I
out to
know,
everybody,
yeah.
so-
Well, for me, I mean, like the neighbors coming in to specifically say, hey, they're cool with it and what a great neighbor he is.
Mhm.
That helps.
That's a testament to allow that to happen.
The one person that I heard, or two people, one indirectly, that coming out of Westwood, you run right into that. You're looking right at his driveway. And if it's gonna be an open I appreciate people who can work on stuff and collect stuff, but I can see this getting to be a jumble of stuff that you might just be looking at.
I do think that we need to keep an eye and just make sure it doesn't become part of his welding shop or his mechanic work. But he's told me he's got a shop at the Slough, so he can do stuff on the interior, so hopefully that's gonna be the situation. And like I said, you know, it was no problem, it'll be
And,
12
you
feet
know,
tall,
regardless
but
of the height, if it was just a covered garage, the stuff could be there, even a lower roof, so that really doesn't
And
affect
if
it.
it was maybe all enclosed, then you wouldn't see.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I went down there today, I came down Westwood, facing his driveway pretty much. I'm thinking, you see this massive, and it's gonna be open. Now Sharon won't see it because they've got their wall, their fence, but anyway. And I
pretty
walked past,
exacting, they keep their yard really, really nice. And
It's a
I think
nice
if it
looking
becomes a mess,
neighborhood.
they would probably be the first one to be down here.
oh yeah, let me tell you what, after buying Sharon and Joyce's house, if they approve, it's probably,
That's right, y'all bought their house.
we
yeah.
did.
Are you ready for the second item?
Yes.
Second item, and this is something we talked about briefly and may have been before your time, Alan. There's a piece of property that is owned by an organization called Southside Outreach Group. And Southside Outreach Group is a housing development organization that works specifically with low and moderate income residents. We've been blessed because we have probably more activity in that arena between our weatherization program, our program, income program, and also our housing, or our community development block grant program, which everybody calls East End, that we're working on right now. There is a property that was purchased at a tax sale that is located at the intersection of Hurt and East Broad Street. It is in the East End neighborhood. It is currently owned, and I come to you because we have been blessed in making application to build 3 workforce development homes. And we received a $403,000 grant to build 3 homes for deserving families, not necessarily low income, but working families who may not be able to be in the market otherwise. And these would be owned by the family, they would be the specific qualifications. We've already received applications far in excess of the 3 houses that we're entitled to build, but that will be our 4th program that we're offering. Southside Outreach already owns this property. They bought it at a tax sale, very inexpensively. And what I'm asking you tonight is, if we can, split it in half. But each lot in that zoning district, for each parcel in that zoning district, is supposed to be 10,000 square feet. And where, put my glasses on.
Tight.
This is Hurt Street. It's not listed or labeled, but that is Hurt Street. And that property that we're discussing is at the intersection of East Broad and Hurt. I don't know if it's an open field now. I think there was a house that burned down there some
Yeah.
years ago. And so Southside Outreach has purchased it, but logical or typical lot size in that zoning district would be 10,000 square feet,
If we cut this in half, what will each lot?
7,500 and 7,500, yeah.
At all. So you're talking about 3 houses on that
No,
lot?
no, 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 this would just be split into 2,
Two.
one here, one there.
And a 3rd house somewhere else?
The town actually purchased a house, I don't know if you're familiar with down that way, but there's the old Tucker place, a real bad looking blue 2-story house. It was literally falling in. The town purchased it and we demolished it, and we're gonna put one of the homes there.
And what's the address of that?
It's almost at the very end, I don't have the address right in front of me, but the Tucker place is at the very end of Broad Street. Do you know where Miss Tucker lives?
It like runs with,
Eubank.
Eubank and.
At the intersection of
Eubank
Eubank
and then Epson
and Broad,
and-
and it backs up to the chicken hatchery.
Oh, it's right there on that side.
It's on that
Okay.
side.
So it's on the other side of Miss Tucker, Barbara?
Yes, ma'am, in
Yes.
between the
Last
two.
house.
That's
And
the one that the town owns.
Okay.
And
I
I
don't
thought,
remember-
And he's trying to split name.
thought you had the corner too,
we don't have
before
the,
you get there.
no, sir, we don't have the corner.
Okay.
We only have that lot that's between Barbara Tucker,
Yeah.
and then there's another house at the very end, and I cannot remember the lady's name. She's real nice.
Angie, I can't think.
And this is right in between, but we took a really horrific old house and tore it down, and we ended up buying it from a gentleman who had bought it at a tax sale. He made a tidy profit on it, but we paid $9,500 for the property. Southside Outreach put up half, and the town, Blackstone, put up half using its program income. So when people make those monthly payments on those houses, we save the money, and that's what we use it for things like that. We bought that property, $9,500, and we intend on building a home on that one as well. The request is to split this one evenly, 7,500 square feet, 7,500 square feet.
And how much would these houses go for?
I think, well, if you take 403,000 divided by 3,
Okay.
$125,000, thereabouts, $120,000. I think I haven't seen the floor plan, but I assume they're gonna be 3-bedroom homes, which will be about 1,200 square feet. And there have been some built in the neighborhood that are probably gonna look a whole lot like that. There's a Miss Gregory. Mr. Miller's daughter, I think, lives in a house that's got a really odd colored blue roof that we built. That's a
Okay.
3-bedroom style, if you know which one I'm talking. It's on the corner of Epps and Broad Street. If you go down there, it's got blue roof because
Yeah.
we could get blue. She wanted a different color, more neutral color, but it was gonna take 4 months or whatever to get the deck on metal, so they selected this available color roof.
So, once this land is split,
Yes,
I
sir.
thought I read something in there where the backyard had to be like 25 feet.
Pardon?
I thought I read something in there where the backyard had to be like 25.
It does, the rear
It'll
yard.
meet all of those
Yeah,
requirements?
they don't have to, even if we have to modify the dimension of the house.
And then,
I'm sorry, so on this lot here, so this is, and this is her. So would one one house face here and one would face.
One house would face Hurt and one house would face.
Oh, okay.
And, would it have that, what is that, footage, to 25, 50 foot?
It's supposed to have 80 feet of frontage.
Okay,
It does not currently have 80 feet of frontage, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look. Excuse me, it has 80 along the front, and if you look at it and we divide that 190, which is the depth of the lot, you cut that in half, that's 95 feet, so it would have 95 feet of frontage on Hurt, and it's got an existing 80 feet, on Broad Street. So it would meet the frontage requirements. It just would not meet the square footage requirements. And that's what we're asking for the variance. Instead of 10,000 square feet, then we're asking it to be 7,500 square feet on the residual and the new lot.
okay.
But that is the plan. The town does own one other lot, just so you know, and it's located over near the Levi Strauss building. Believe it or not, there used to be a playground there. You guys
Oh,
may
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that stuff. It'd be a little before my time, but if you notice, the topography is really steep, and so we're gonna have to build much more of a foundation if we use that lot, and that's why we were looking at this one. I still need to weigh the cost of utilities, because there's no sewer in front of this property on Hurt Street, so we still have to weigh what is the better of the two before I even do the subdivision, but nothing can happen unless this is approved tonight, so that's definitive. But I'm a little nervous about having to put a sewer pump in and handing somebody, oh, here's your new sewer pump that you gotta maintain perpetually. So we gotta still look at the cost of that and see whether that's better than the Levi's building, or Levi's property, which is really steep, but sewer flows beautifully. It goes right down to the sewer manhole down the bottom, if there is such a thing.
Okay. So will we consider what you were saying at, the public hearing?
You will open that.
Open it and then close it, yeah.
Okay, so I hereby open the public hearing. Yes, none, no, none.
And adjoining property owners were notified of this as well.
Okay, and adjoining property owners have been notified, no one here to speak to or fro. Hereby close the public hearing. Does the committee have any questions or comments?
I know the housing market is skyrocketed recently, and I heard a realtor say that even as much as it's skyrocketed, it's not going down in the next 5 years. If anything, it's going to go up a little bit, and so any affordable housing that we can provide, I think, is a good idea.
Okay, good enough.
And there's demand. Chelsea's received, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 applications, so, yeah, she's got a bunch of applications already, and
And the criteria is in place of the income or
and so, we've been blessed. We apply for stuff and we've been lucky to get it. I think the whole neighborhood is in bloom.
Mm-hmm.
You can see what's going on down at the very end of Tavern Street. You can see on Dillard Street, there were some townhouses built that are very attractive. We got the water and sewer finished. There are 5 homes under construction right now, under some sort of construction. Mr. Hardy, who is on Dillard Street, his home is being renovated. There's a home owned by, last name is Branch, and that is on Fitzgerald Street. That's gonna be demolished and a new one built. On Harris Street, there is a home owned by Miss Hardy, Paul Hardy's daughter. I can't remember her first name right off. And John Neal's old home, if you're familiar with where that is. That home will be demolished and a new one built. If you notice, we've been cutting some trees down in the general area. And then there's a duplex at the corner of Tavern Street and Harris Street that's owned, I'd like to say it's Bessie Irby, but I don't think she's the actual owner, but she's the property manager. And there's 2 units and those are being renovated. And I think there's still room, once those are finished, to see how much money's left if we can do additional. I think there are 2 additional homes that people are agreeable to have renovated and worked in the neighborhood. Water and sewer's done. However, we still have 1 section of water line that was separate from the contract. The contract that we had that just finished was, they replaced everything in place that was there. Andres asked me to continue 1 section of water line about 400 feet to tie it in there at the Doran's shop. And we gotta finish that before we do curb and gutter and streets, and just like the first phase, and if you've been down there to look at it, it's a difference. I mean, the streets look clean and, it's much better and, I believe, and I think council has supported, that we do these kind of projects, we try to do them soup to nuts from the start to finish, and not just fix up some houses and see what happens, but we're doing the curb and the gutter and putting in new sewer lines and water lines and all this sort of thing.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, guys. Hereby propose, we wanna make a motion, committee would like to make a motion on this property at East Broad and Hurt Street. On that divide.
No, you're making the motion?
No, I'm asking.
Oh, you're asking. I'll make a motion that we go with the variance for this property at 7,500 feet, square feet per lot. For this housing.
Pardon?
I said for the housing.
And it'd be specific for those Commonwealth Regional Council Affordable Housing or Workforce Housing.
Specific to that, yes.
We won't just market them and sell them.
Right.
If that's the case, we won't with the lot. Okay.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, then motion proper second. Ready for the vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else you wanna ramble on about?
And that's it. I
I thought it
hereby
was good information.
Yes, it was.
It was very good information.
thank everybody for coming out, and I hereby close the Board of Zoning Appeals Committee.
7:12 PM.
12.